Good evening and welcome to the regular session of council. It is Thursday, February the 20th, 2025, 7 p.m., and I will call this meeting to order. First order of business is disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none noted. Item 3, review of items not listed on the agenda.
Just one item tonight, Mr. Mayor, and item 13.2D. This is report CAO 1225 regarding acquisition, stop up, close, and convey of Part 1 on Plan 11-305 being part of 4th Street in Stratfordville.
Thank you for that. Moving on with item 4, announcements from council members. Does anyone have any announcements they wish to share? Councilor Froese.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I went to the community center in Vienna today and I put in my vote for early voting, which was open today, tomorrow, and Saturday, if I understand correctly.
Thank you for that. So encourage all residents to get out there and participate in this provincial election. And then, of course, voting day is next Thursday. 3 locations across Bayham, the Vienna Community Center, Stratfordville Community Center, and the community in Christchurch at North Hall. If I got that right. Yes. Thank you. I have a couple of announcements to add. The first one is that the North Shore Resilience Program open houses will be taking place next week. They begin in Dutton on, I believe it is Monday, and then Tuesday it is in Port Rowan, and the one for us is on Wednesday at the Stratfordville Community Center from 2 to 4 and from 6 to 8. Please go to the North Shore Resilience webpage and follow the link, and they would request that you pre-register so they have an idea of how many are coming. Secondly, I wish to make passing mention that currently the flags outside the community center here at Stratfordville are flying at half-mast, and that is in recognition of the passing of Keith Underhill Sr., who was a former councillor for the village of Vienna, and I believe it was in 1995 through till 97 or 98. Pre-amalgamation, anyway. Keith passed away last weekend, and we fly the flag at half-mast just to honor his memory and thank him for his service. We have no presentations or delegations this evening, which brings us to adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting, which includes the regular meeting of council held February the 6th, 2025. The minutes have been circulated. If there are no errors or omissions, mover and seconder for the following, that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held February the 6th, 2025 be approved as presented. Do I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor Weisler. Councilor Froese. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We will move down on the agenda to section 11, physical services and emergency services, and 11.2 reports to council. The first is report PS 0125 by Ed Rollison, the manager of capital projects, water, wastewater, regarding the 2024 annual drinking water and compliance summary reporting for Bayham and Richmond water system. Good evening, Mr. Rollison.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. The reports for you this evening are specifically for the annual reporting requirement for the Bayham and Richmond water systems. This is a annual requirement set out in the provincial regulations. I would just like to first off mention that water quality reporting for both of these systems is provided to council on a quarterly basis, and we have actually no water quality concerns to report this year. In fact, both of our water systems, we're very pleased to report once again, received a 100% score from the MECP drinking water inspection process. Getting into the discussions, the sorry, I dropped the ruler. Sorry about that. I want to dive into some issues with the Richmond water system that I think it's important to bring forward, because as part of this annual summary requirement, we have to keep a tally on rated capacities. And rated capacities for the Richmond water system can be a twofold matter. One being what the system is licensed for, being what it can physically treat in the facility, which is this 43.2 cubic meters. And then there's also a permit to take water requirement that Richmond currently does not fall under, which is a 50 cubic meters of water per day. So over the last year, Your Worship, we've noticed that we're seeing an increase in flows and demand. We've seen some infilling in Richmond, and we're nearing an 80% capacity on our license for the water system, of which the ministry really dictates, really wants us to keep a close eye on how that affects as we get closer to 90% capacity. Doesn't leave a lot of contingency for the treatment facility. So we are quite concerned moving forward that capacity can quickly be eaten up as a result of ARUs in particular. They're hard to keep, kind of hard to keep track of at times as to what's happening within existing homes and whatnot. It's also important to for me to bring forward that the Richmond water system, as I guess as a community water system, has a defined number of connections throughout the distribution system, of which there currently are 7 remaining connections in the system that are could be like they're entitled to connect if and when they choose. So I think moving forward that those 7 in particular would have priority and would be expected when the time comes that they would be allowed to connect to the system. And we do currently have that capacity for the 7 there. So with that, Your Worship, I'd like to get into the attachments of the report, specifically starting off with the BAM system. Again, this is all related to water quality, no water quality concerns. The report breaks down the number of samples that are taken, the types of samples that are taken. The next section of the report is the actual summary report. And this talks about, this we'll see in the Burwell side, that the water system complies fully with the Safe Drinking Water Act, Reg 170. Reg 128 is the licensing specific to the operators. So we fully comply with licensed operators and the required training. And as you're aware, we've just recently received our updated license as we went through a financial plan for both the BAM and Richmond system. So we now have our updated licenses. And the final spreadsheet on the BAM side is the flow comparisons. And I capture here from 2021 to 2024, just as a comparison. You'll note there, Your Worship, Council, that the Vienna side of things is very consistent. We're getting very good captures throughout the Vienna system now since the replacement of the water service lines. Very consistent flows, and Port Burwell is actually doing very well also. And just as a side note, we all know and understand that we're a member of the Port Burwell Secondary with Township of Malahide and Municipality of Central Elgin. And the way that costing and whatnot is divvied out on that system is based on flows. So this past year, actually, our flow percentage actually dropped slightly. So we're very pleased with those results as well. So that's it on the Burwell side, on the BAM side rather. On the Richmond side, spend a little bit more time on the body of this this section. There's a lot more detail on the Richmond side because it is actually treatment as well. Again, no water quality issues in Richmond. In fact, I'm very pleased to be able to say that as a result of our implementation of source water protection, that is a requirement. We are seeing some significant results coming in betterment of water quality there, specifically with our nitrate levels. When the system was the wells were drilled and the system was taken over by the municipality, we had some significant nitrate issues in the raw water. The treatment plant is designed to treat that nitrate, and we believe through the efforts of source water protection, the commitment and ongoing commitment of the surrounding farmers, in particular the walkers, we have seen this nitrate level significantly drop in the raw water, and it's now very consistent. In fact, it's below the level that we would actually have to treat for. So this will yield us some savings and some longevity in equipment in that treatment plant. So we're very pleased with that. Again, I mentioned earlier, the Richmond system did also score 100% on our annual inspection with the ministry. And I do provide flows here as a comparison. Richmond flows are fairly consistent, really driven by the seasons. In particular, if we have a hot summer, it's not uncommon to see our flows rise significantly. And again, it is important to remember that we have a water conservation bylaw for the community of Richmond, in that no non-domestic water use is permitted. And with the flow demands increasing, we're going to have to keep an eye on that as well. So in summary, I would just like to say regarding back to Richmond, we will continue to monitor these flows. We've reached out to the engineering firm that we originally have worked with there, Stantec, and just to get an idea that I can bring something forward to council with the possibility of considering additional capacity for that treatment facility. And that will be coming in the coming months, I would suspect. So with that, if there are any questions, happy to take them.
Thank you very much for that report, Ed. A couple of questions from my perspective. ARUs, are they supposed to be on a separate connection?
No. So in fact, if it's one parcel, it's one connection. And we have we do have locations where there are multiple meters,
Right.
but typically there's it's one water connection.
All right, I thought they may have been treated the same as apartments.
No, not exactly like
All right.
that. No,
All right,
no.
all right, thank you for that. With respect to the water Richmond, or the Richmond water system, excuse me, the restrictions, is it at the treatment level or is it at the well? Like, I know the distribution and the licensing prescribes what can be taken, but where's the bottleneck? Is it the treatment facility or is it the wells? Is there capacity at the wells for additional?
Your worship, the bottleneck is in fact the treatment.
Thank you.
The wells are performing very well. We do now have online monitoring of the water levels, and the wells there, the two overburden wells in particular, are excellent.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
Any additional questions from any member of council? Well, thank you again, Ed, for that report. Very informative, and congratulations to you and your staff for once again returning 100% score on our water systems.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate that. There's certainly some challenges. Yeah, we're always up to the challenge.
Glad to hear that. Opportunity is yours, you know. With that, we have a motion that reads a report PS 0125 regarding the 2024 annual drinking water and compliance summary reporting the Bayham and Richmond water systems be received for information. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Emerson will move. Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor? That is carried. Item B, we have report BL 0225 by Mark Russell, bylaw enforcement officer regarding the updates to traffic and parking bylaw. Mark, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The municipality of Bayham has a bylaw that regulates traffic and parking that has not had a comprehensive review since 2016. With the approval of the paid parking pilot program, staff have conducted a review of the bylaw and updated the necessary language needed to implement the paid parking program and modernize the area requiring attention. The report before you outlines the main challenges proposed, the main changes proposed, but is not limited to the following: increase legislative authority, traffic control regulations, electric vehicle provisions, paid parking standards, municipal parking lot restrictions, accessible parking requirements, fire route provisions, private operated parking lots, and the seasonal residential parking permits. The bylaw has a number of sections titled Reserve. They are there for the amendments going forward to simplify the process. Seasonal residential permits have a reference to the rates and fees bylaw. This is standard language in all of our bylaws and allows council to amend the rates in the future without having to amend the parking bylaw itself. The manager of Public Works has been consulted regarding the drafting of this bylaw and the viability of parking in certain streets, as the roads widths and access for emergency vehicles need to be considered. To ensure that the unique provisions of the previous bylaw were maintained, I ensured that they were in the new bylaw. In addition, staff have reviewed the comparable and larger municipalities to ensure that the bylaw captures the current and future needs of the municipality. Additional financial considerations, bylaw and the manager of Public Works have discussed the costs associated with bylaw updates for signage. These figures are included in the report to council and will be recovered by the fine revenue, which is conservatively estimated at $15,000. We are looking for approval of this bylaw so we can proceed with the set fine application to the Ministry of the Attorney General, as the typical set fine applications can take up to 3 months long. Mr. Mayor, I leave it with you and I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you, Mark, for that report. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Emerson.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if or when the pilot project fails, is this overburden of laws going to be rescinded, or is that on the books forever?
Through your worship, the bylaw would remain in effect. However, we would just remove the portions of the municipal lots that are paid. So just by removing that portion of municipal lot that are paid, the metered lots, that's all that would need to be done.
All right.
And that's just a quick amendment in the schedule.
Mark, regarding the village entrance signage, and you've got a $10,000 allocation for that. Is it not just additions to the signage, or what are we specifically? I'm curious to know what towards that.
The reason why there is a 10,000 addition for multiple signs going in is we did new signs would need to be posted. We did this basically, we changed the time from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and we were going to change that to 2 to 6. And then in addition, the current signage is about 20 years old. So it doesn't meet current reflectivity issues too as well. And it would also have information about the speed posted on it.
So we're talking more than just Port Burwell then. We're talking about the village residential.
Yes, and that's the
or
reason, that's the
signage
reason
up-
why it would be
All right. Thank you.
substantially higher. But that being said, it would be recovered from the costs associated from the fines.
Okay, all right. Well, I was thinking entrance signs for Village Port Burwell, that was quite pricey, but we're talking about across the municipality. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Froze.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I just want to get you to help me understand. We're going to change a bunch of bylaws so we can find people to pay for the cost of changing bylaws.
Go ahead, Mark.
Can you just repeat your question? I'm just not really
We're going to
comprehending.
change a bunch of bylaws
Changing the parking bylaw, yes.
so we can find people to pay for the changes of the bylaws.
So
So,
Pay for the
changes
signage.
that are required.
So basically, the additional signage would be required because we do have parking issues down in Parkerwell. Also, like I did say, the entrance signs coming into the town are currently outdated and don't meet current reflectivity.
That's a capital budget thing, right?
So like majority of the like the $10,000 estimate for the signage coming into the towns, that would be recovered. That's all I'm saying. It's not an expense that would be met by council. It'd be recovered by fines.
I think the short answer was yes. Okay, any additional questions, Councilor Emerson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I need more clarification on the reserve section for future amendments. Is that being put in there so that administration can change bylaws or fines or anything without going through council?
No, so just the reserve sections are just, it's just really an administrative function. So for instance, if we needed to do an amendment in the future, we could just add that in without having to change all of our numbering throughout the bylaw. It's just an efficiency thing, that's all. And for future bylaws, it's gonna be included a lot more in there.
Yes, Thomas.
Just quick to build on what the bylaw officer mentioned. It's more of an efficiency and looking proactively into the future should there be an amendment, and to clarify that any amendment to the bylaw would require council approval. So we bring it back to council.
Supplementary, and all these bylaw changes are for all of the municipality or just for Port Brook?
No, all of municipality,
Yes,
correct, Mark?
that's correct.
Councilor Froze.
I read that the horses can't pay for parking. Well, through you, Mr. Mayor. But there is horse parking there, correct? There's a small section for horses, right?
On the beach lot, we're not gonna have that because
We're doing away with it. Like currently there is a spot, right?
I'm not familiar
Nope.
with the spot there.
But
There's a spot.
there's tie up for horses. Are we doing away with them?
The plan was to remove, in any metered lot, to have no horses there, because the thing is, the idea behind that is it's gonna be a busy lot where people are coming in and we don't want that horse to be hit.
Sounds a little discriminatory.
Yeah, what through,
I hear you. Yeah.
to continue, well, so where are the Amish to park their horse and buggies when they come to the beach?
We do have a lot that's down on Pitt Street. That's a little farther down. It's a little more secluded, that has less traffic. So I was thinking that would be a better location. With the number of vehicles that are coming in and out of the lots, it's just high risk that a horse gets hit. It's not only that the horse gets hit, but it's also, the damage to vehicles and the potential liability too as well.
I think the important thing is, and I thank you for raising that issue, Councilor Froze and Councilor Emerson, that you don't want, you're right, you don't want to have any discrimination here. And if there was availability for all intents and purposes, garaging your horse down there or tying them up, then you don't want to take that away. As long as there's provisions that they can have some place. And if you're expressing concerns that it might be safer in a different location,
Yes.
well, I can perhaps accept that. But we don't want to just discriminate against a portion of the society that doesn't necessarily believe in motor vehicles. Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you. Approximately how much farther away from where they are now would you be having them park the buggies? Because
It
that's
would be about
an issue.
300 meters of where the pit lot is. That being said, we do have a loading and unloading zone, so they could unload there and then park up at Pitt Street lot. I
Alright.
think it is a better location for the horse and buggies, just because the amount of traffic coming in and out. And yeah, I think it would be a shame for a horse to get hit. I think that'd be also additional liability for the municipality too as well. And I think that we have to look at really the interest of the municipality in the end, if we're concerned about a horse being hit, possibly being there.
I would assume the signage would be visible
Yes.
directing. All right. Okay, Counselor Frozen.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I say we just charge them that way. We don't have to uproot them and put parking spots there that we will charge for. So anyway, $2,876 may be covered by honk if they don't pay for it. Where's that gonna come from?
So those numbers are basically the numbers for the entrance signs coming into the lot. They would be different. So anything that says honk and has a QR code on it would be covered by them. They haven't confirmed yet if they're gonna do the entrance signs that's actually going into the municipal lot. We wanna have large signs going into the municipal lot, basically advising that it's municipal parking. The times when paid parking is in effect, that's something the municipality would be responsible for. However, I am gonna be asking if they would be willing to take that cost, that additional cost.
All right,
One
Counselor Emerson.
through you, Mr. Mayor, why do we feel the need, if somebody has a lot and chooses to park a couple of cars on there for $20 and it helps alleviate the parking situation, why do we feel the need to restrict that and limit possible someone's income? Is that just to make sure we're the only people in the parking business, or is that to because that would just eliminate parking pressure too, if somebody in the private sector does that? I don't see why we need to have that regulation in there. I mean, people park for a Simcoe Fair. I see people renting parking out in Turkey Point. Why do we have to regulate everything in everybody's life?
You got an answer for that one, Mark?
Yeah, we want to make sure that parking lots have municipal standards. We want to make sure that they have lights. We want to make sure they have entrance permits. We want to make sure that they're properly zoned and not parking lots are just popping up here and there and all over the place. The municipality is spending a substantial amount of money on maintaining the beach and looking after this project, and to allow someone to abut a parking lot right beside ours directly impacts the municipality's revenue and also undermines our interests at the municipality. In addition, they're not meeting the municipal standards. They wouldn't meet the municipal standards. We want to make sure that if they are putting in a lot, that those lots meet the municipal standards and have similar pricing as the municipality. This is very common in other municipalities such as Lambton Shores, and Port Stanley. Other municipalities have done this too as
All right.
well.
I see Counselor Frozen. Go ahead.
One more quick question. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. You and your schedule, you have enough time to enforce all these?
Again, it is quite a lengthy bylaw. However, we are gonna have a seasonal enforcement officer there, assisting with the parking enforcement, and I will be also assisting with that too as well, as I'm in the area. My goal and my approach at enforcement and the summer seasonal officer position will be notified that our main goal is for compliance. We're not looking to be heavy-handed on tickets. We're looking to gain compliance. So a perfect example of that is if someone says, well, I don't have $8 on me and I don't want to pay for parking. Okay, we have a loading zone here. You can unload in this area and then you can park down the Fifth Street parking.
Mark.
Oh, sorry. So if someone doesn't have money for paid parking or doesn't want to pay for parking, then what they can do is they can unload at the beach and park in the Pitt Street parking lot.
I thought Pitt Street was going to be part of this as well.
So Pitt Street is not a part of the paid portion. It's just the east beach. It's just the east beach. That's it.
Okay. No, my understanding was we were talking about Pitt Street as well. Regardless, moving forward. Any other questions? We have a public meeting coming up shortly, so Councillor Chilcott?
Thank you. This is getting back to the privately operated parking lots. So you're looking at parking lots specifically, not someone who has a couple of spots in their driveway that they want to get $20 for each spot for the day?
Yeah, this is specifically parking lots.
Okay.
Someone pulled up on the boulevard or on their yard kind of thing.
I can park 10
Goes-
vehicles in my lane.
Yeah, I
Well-
mean,
well,
goes,
just-
goes to what Counselor Emerson was referring to. How does Norfolk deal with, the Norfolk County Fair when, and they're selling their, spots out in front of someone else's yard? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, and I don't have the answer to that specifically, but typically what most municipalities will do for, say, a Canada Day event, they will relax the regulations. They'll allow someone to have a lot possibly on their property for a day or two for the fair, just to accommodate that.
Mhm.
But it's
Okay.
not a long-term thing.
Thomas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just maybe a clarification question. I believe this is in the bylaw, Mark, that there is a section in there about vehicles that are parked on private property, and as long as they have permission of the landowner to park there, that's perfectly fine.
Yes,
The,
that's correct.
the clause in there about privately owned parking lots is more for somebody that wants to come in and establish a long-term commercial parking lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, then I would suggest we clarify the language then to commercial parking lots instead of just parking lots.
Not everyone is zoned as commercial. That's the
No,
issue.
but what if I have 4 spaces in my driveway and I want to rent $20 out for 3 of them? Then because it's so ambiguous, then I can't rent spots out in my driveway.
If you're going to do it long-term, then what's the difference between you and a commercial lot somewhere?
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. Trying to aim
Yes.
for parity.
It's just supplemental. And it's not really a question, it's more of a concern. As we lay down a series of bylaws and we're my concern is that a part-time seasonal position turns into a full-time position is not counted in the thing for the budget because we laid down a bunch of laws that apply to all of the municipality. So then we don't have one bylaw officer, we have one and a quarter, we have 2 bylaw officers.
The current.
That's my concern.
I understand what you're saying. The current parking bylaw that exists is municipal wide. And this is just meant to replace it. These were things that were developed over time, and I recall past councils extending courtesies or enforcement abilities to park works per se. And not that long ago, we extended it to our public works manager. Okay, so they could do overnight when they run into somebody or something along the road they had to enforce. These were built up over time. And this is just updating, if you will, or replacing that old bylaw, bringing new. I don't think there's any intention, there was no permission from council to hire a full-time additional bylaw officer. It was a part-time.
Same, I'm
That's
saying
what you're alluding to.
it rationalizes the need for,
Does it?
someone can come back in here and say, wow, geez, I'm so busy, I need a full-time person. So
also could
I'm
say-
just, that's my concern. And perhaps someday in the future, we should pass a bylaw. If we're gonna add layers of bylaws on bylaws over time or over 20 years, we should say, when we're reviewing, we should be taking a couple off that no longer apply. So that we don't end up with a whole bunch of red tape like planning where it's really expensive to do stuff.
Let's keep those comments aside for a moment. Council, we are late for a public meeting. Are you done? Like, can we wrap this one up or we can suspend now and then come back to it if you'd like? Ready? Okay. All right, thank you for that. Mark, thank you. We have a motion before us that reads that report BL 0225 regarding updates to traffic and parking bylaw be received for information. And that council approved bylaw number 2025-013 as presented. And that bylaw number 2025-013 be brought forward for enactment. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Weiser and Councillor Chilcott, all in favor? Wow. I'm gonna throw my hat into it and I'll vote for it. That's carried.
Shouldn't you be asking who was against?
If you wish, would you like to put your hands up? Would you like a recorded vote?
No, it's fine.
Okay. We will now suspend from our regular session to move forward into a public meeting. Guess it's recess, suspend, whatever. Okay. Gonna call to order this statutory planning meeting. It is Thursday, February the 20th, 2025, 7:35 PM. And I'll call the meeting to order. I'll remind members of disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. The purpose of this public meeting is to deal with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0325 at 55032 Vienna Line, Underhill Farms Limited. The purpose of the amendment to the municipality of zoning bylaw is to rezone the subject lands as a result of a surplus farm dwelling severance as follows. The proposed retained lot is to be rezoned from the agricultural A1 zone to the special agricultural A2 zone to prohibit new dwellings. And the proposed severed lot is to be rezoned from the agricultural A1 zone to rural residential zone to permit the existing single detached dwelling. The subject property is known as 55032 Vienna Line, north side and west of Brown Road. The effect of this bylaw will be to recognize the residential nature of the newly created residential lot and to prohibit new dwellings on the retained farm parcel in accordance with the official plan. As part of the clearing of consent conditions for Elgin County Land Division Committee file number E523 that was conditionally approved on October 23rd, 2024. This time I will call for public participation. Anyone wishing to speak to this file, please come forward and sign at the podium. Silence prevails. Marg, any correspondence? Just your name. None. Thank you. And I see no other business before this public meeting, which brings us to the adjournment motion. That the zoning bylaw be considered at a future meeting of council and that pursuant to the Planning Act requirements, the public meeting for zoning application ZBA 0325 is now complete at 7:37 PM. Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Weisler, Councillor Chilcott, all in favor. That is carried. We are adjourned. And back to our regular scheduled meeting. We are now at section 12, Development Services, Sustainability and Conservation. 12.1 for correspondence. 12.1.1 to receive for information. We have 5 pieces of correspondence. Notice of decision of minor variance application A0125, Heimbuck. B, notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0325 Underhill Farms Limited. C, notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0425 Fair. D, notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0525 at 1830567 Ontario Inc. E, notice of public meeting regarding proposed zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 0625 Wood. Anyone have any questions or concerns with any of these pieces of correspondence? Seeing none, I need a mover and seconder for the following, that items 12.1.1A through E be received for information. Councillor Froese will move, Councillor Emerson will second. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 12.2, reports to council. We have report DS 1025 by Margaret Underhill, Planning Coordinator, Deputy Clerk, regarding dedication of Part 8 of Registered Plan 11R 6179, except Part 7 and 8 of Registered Plan 11R 6366 as public highway system, Bruce Street. Marg.
Good evening, your worship and council. The report before you is dealing with a parcel of land that you would recognize as being part of the Eden East subdivision. As part of a severance completed in 1996, there were 3 lots in the hamlet of Eden that were created along with a road allowance portion. And the road allowance portion was transferred to the municipality at that time. That being the Part 8 of the 11R 6179. The lots themselves and the road allowance remained undeveloped, and therefore no bylaw was ever registered to establish this road allowance as part of the public highway system. The Eden East subdivision incorporates the 3 lots and the road allowance. In order for the development and the sale of lots to proceed, the road allowance portion owned by the municipality requires dedication as part of the public highway system. A small portion of the road allowance was already dedicated as a public highway as part of the Eden East subdivision registration process. So we were contacted by 1128 Properties, Inc., legal representative, to now pass a bylaw to dedicate that portion of Bruce Street. And we wish to present this bylaw to you to dedicate it as part of the public highway system and have it registered. This will facilitate the continued development and sale of the subdivision lots. So to further the development, the bylaws presented and attached to the report are our plans, and the section shown as Part 8 is the subject of this report. And I leave it with you, Your Worship, for any questions.
Well, thank you very much for that report, Mark. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion that reads a report DS 1025 regarding the dedication of Part 8 of Registered Plan 11R 6179 except Parts 7 and 8 of the Registered Plan 11R-6366 as part of the public highway system, Bruce Street, and that bylaw number 2025-012 be presented for enactment. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Emerson will move, Councillor Rose will second. All in favor? And that's carried. That's the first Bruce we have in Bayham. Section 13, Finance and Administration, 13.1, Correspondence, 13.11 to receive for information. We have a number of items. First one is from the town of Coburg regarding municipal restructuring study. Item B, Town of Hanover regarding the imposition of tariffs on Canada. Item C, Peterborough County regarding tariffs on Canada. D, Township of Uxbridge regarding the implementation of Buy Canadian policy. E, Elgin County regarding the February 11th, 2025 from the council chambers. F, the Elgin County regarding the 2025 budget consultation. G, the Long Point Region Conservation Authority regarding the January 8th, 2025 meeting minutes, I assume. A little late for 24. And H, the Elgin Area Primary Water System Supply System, the Notice of Master Plan Study. Does anyone have any questions regarding any of these pieces of correspondence? Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have a curiosity question more so than
Mhm.
the restructuring piece from correspondence items A and B. Or no, actually, just be A. There's in this letter, it talks about this comprehensive service rationalization and a comprehensive review. Having gone through a restructuring when we amalgamated here, are these new regulations that are in place that you know of, or is this, I'm just trying to figure out what that means. A comprehensive study on service rationalization.
Well,
And
unless,
I'm just curious as to whether these are new regulations or if this is what every municipality that amalgamates has to go through.
this isn't an amalgamation. This looks like a de-amalgamation. It looks like they want to get rid of the upper tier. If I read the resolution correctly.
To explore potential restructure, it says potential amalgamation with Northumberland County to enhance efficiency and service delivery. It's just interesting.
Just, Mr. Mayor, if I can jump in.
Please.
So, yes, so this would be looking at, an alternative governance structure for Northumberland County. So one of those options would be, looking at service rationalization. What does the upper tier provide relative to what the lower tier provides? And potentially amalgamating the county as a single tier. But the second part of that is that a third option being included in the study, a look at a possible dissolution of the upper tier, which then would mean, potentially, smaller single tier municipalities or a different structure altogether.
Mm,
So either amalgamating as a single tier or dissolving the upper tier and looking at a different governance structure.
Interesting. It was an interesting read. Thank you. Just,
Okay, no, thank you for that. Not that I'm looking for any support on this or not, but I think it'd be fairly interesting to keep an eye on the master
mhm.
plan study for the Elgin area primary water supply system. That, and today unfortunately was the last day for public consultation on the Elgin County budget. But if there are any concerns that anyone has and wants to express, let me know, because it'll be considered Tuesday at county council. I'd be happy to carry the message for you. Councilor Froze.
1311B, the tariff thing, potential tariff thing.
Hanover?
Yes, sir. Like, support that.
I don't see any downside. It's interesting, the number of people who are expressing, over this whole kerfuffle, if you will call it that, people who are standing up, supporting Canadian, buy Canadian only, like, wow, there's been a whole ration patronage, it's really interesting. So, yeah, sure.
Well, in that, through Mr. Mayor, in that note, the other one where we should make a policy to buy Canadian first. Or support that motion on the next letter or whatever that came, I can't remember because the computer's gone dead.
Peterborough tariff?
Mhm.
They were the same, were they not?
No, one's more like a declaration to buy Canadian.
Okay, it's D, Uxbridge, buy
Yeah, the
Canadian,
temporary purchasing. policy.
Uxbridge.
Peterborough Company.
But dude, if you want to
Mhm.
support all three, it's fine. Yes, please. Got that one? Any other piece of correspondence? Okay. Megan, would you please read the motion for that?
That items 1311A through H be received for information, and that council for the municipality of Bayham supports items 1311B, C, and D.
Councilor Emerson will move, or is that a question?
No, there's a move.
Rose will second. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 13112, requiring action. Item A, Legend Rubber Inc., a request for a letter of support. Thomas, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can speak briefly to this. So this is a request for a letter of support that's come in from Legend Rubber for the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund. As council will recall, in early 2024, we received a similar request from Phil Maurer for the same fund. They asked for a letter of support, and council was willing to provide. So this is essentially the same request, but this one is coming from Legend Fleet Solutions, otherwise known as Legend Rubber. They like a letter of support from the municipality signed by the mayor. They provided a draft, and the draft is in the agenda for consideration. We can play around with some of the language in there, but the overarching request is for a letter of support in support of an application to the Southwestern Ontario Development Fund.
All right. Any concerns? Okay, perfect. So we have a motion to read the correspondence from Legend Rubber Inc. regarding the request for letter of support be received for information, and the mayor be authorized to prepare and sign a letter of support from BAM to Legend Rubber Inc. for the noted grant application. We have a mover and seconder. Councillor Chilcott will move. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor? Carried. 13.2. Item A, report TR 0425 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding the 2024 development charges. Lauren, please.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Before you is our 2024 development charges report. This is an annual boilerplate report. As councilor recall, development charges were implemented in BAM effectively October 6th of 22. So this is our second year of having a report. In 22, we did not have any development charges collected. 23, we did, and 24, we continued on it. Couple positive notes. The wastewater development charge fund has a substantial buildup. Capital project has been identified in 2025, which is the Eden Station pump expansion. I remind council that development charges cannot pay for existing or rehab. They can only pay for growth. So anytime that we have a capital item that is helping for growth, be paid by DCs, or if that capital item has a proportionate share of rehab and growth, the portion share that is growth will be funded by DCs. So that's a positive win for the municipality, as well as we have a water project identified in 29 for the booster upgrades, which will also be paid by development charges. As attached in the appendix, council will see the activity in the year for collections, as well as the interest earned in the 3 development charge account.
All right, thank you very much for that report, Lauren. As a reminder for council, can you remind us what the threshold is that before we have to spend or expend these funds?
Within 5 years, you have to have a development charges plan for your capital. We are over the 250 threshold, which means we have to identify capital programs, which we've already done for the wastewater. So that 394 will be partially consumed with the 250 capital projects in 25. But this will be an annual exercise, both in our DC as well as enhanced in our capital, to identify growth-related DC revenues to pay for capital.
Well,
So
I think
those will be those considerations.
no, we understand that component, that this is a great opportunity to use, as you say, the wastewater fund, which from DCs to fund the capital expansion in Eden for the support for the collection system.
Correct.
But what I'm asking is, should we have a threshold that a balance, say it approaches $500,000?
We should be
When do we have to expend this? What's the threshold?
So 250 is when we have to have a plan. 500 is when we have to lay out our capital funding consumed in 5 years.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to inform council of, just to remind them that we are working under certain thresholds and restrictions. But this is an appropriate use of that fund, which means that our wastewater reserve will stay in place. We don't have to touch it in order to do the waste water expansion in Eden.
And
Correct?
one other caveat, Your Worship, members of council, if in the event that you guys have a longer plan that's over 5 years, like a brand new system, you can petition to the province that the fund will be accrued to pay for a brand new system in that scale. But it has to be laid out in a multi-year, 10-year capital program. So we could continue to build this up, provided that the intentions are to build system capacity at a larger dollar per scale. I also remind council that DCs cannot pay for land procurement as well.
Correct. Thank you. Any questions from council? Come a long way since the implementation of that particular fund. So, but we've had a lot of growth as well. All right. Thank you for that report, Lauren. And we have a motion that reads a report TR 0425 regarding the 2024 development charges be received for information. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Weisler, Councillor Chilcott. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Report TR 0525 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding the 2024 investment report. Lauren, please.
Thank you again, your worship. Again, this is an annual filing report. Our investment report requirements are regulated by OREG 3897, which requires the municipal treasurer to bring back the investment report, which we have it prescribed below. As council recalls, we are no longer with one investment that was disposed of in the previous years, and it is all in high yield RBC GICs. The attachment indicates the yield per portfolio. This is one of our best investment earning years to date in the history of the municipality. And this exceptional income and investment income is one of the driving factors in our finance reports, which council will see next week in our special, which will be our year-end surplus deficit report, our year-end reserves, and also lead into Project Ojibwe's funding of the debt call in March. So there's lots of positives in our investment, but as council can see in the attachments, we had one of our best investment income yields in history, and I applaud council for sticking with staff on the high cash management utilization that we've done for the last 2 years. The ability to churn cash management correctly and efficiently has resulted in success for the municipality, as well as additional revenue streams that we didn't budget for. So it's a win.
Thank you for that report. Does anyone have any questions for Lauren? Lauren, I would note that in the column for funds, the description, you do include development charges, but there are no DCs within this investment portfolio, correct?
So the DCs at the bottom of the investment actually relates to the DC report where the interest earned. So we use the general investment pool and then we prescribe the amount of interest for each of the DCs respectively.
We can't use the DCs in our, like the DC invest or in the returns on the investment, except
No.
they're restricted, are they not?
They're restricted to the DC reserve accounts in the previous report.
All right, so if the total interest, for example, is 624,000, how much of that is from DC accounts?
So the 1664 relates to the DC between our 3 DC accounts. The general fund is 465. So at the bottom of the report, it shows the allocation and where it's earmarked. So 140 goes to reserves, 1,850 goes to the cemetery boards, 16,000 and change goes to DC, and 465 is the general fund. So the general fund is part of our standard investment income on an annualized basis.
Okay, perhaps I'm missing the notations here to identify where they go. Are they? I gotta scroll further. Thank you. Your chart's too big.
Huh.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So the 16,000, then that's the DC interest.
Correct, your
But
worship.
that's restricted to the DC accounts.
Correct. No different is the one where it has reserve funds. That's restricted to those reserve funds as
Correct.
well.
So the
It's
one
the
that's
general. It's the general, which is unrestricted.
that's correct. The 465.
Yes.
So that's a phenomenal yield, and these were 18-month certificates.
We had certificates varying anywhere between a year, 6 months to 18. On
Yeah.
the right-hand side, you're going to see the yield column. We averaged anywhere from just a shade under 3.5 to as high as a 5.75 yield. And factoring that we had multiple interest rate cuts and we aggressively got ahead of the cuts before our GICs had come up, and effectively if we've utilized as much cash on hand to get a higher yield, this is a windfall. This is a benefit to our residents. And as council will see next week in the year-end reports, this is a huge win for us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any questions from any member of council? Great job. Yep. Good job. Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just a quick comment to commend the treasurer on his cash management strategy. It really has, just to echo what he said, put us in a really good position. And this stems back to the 2023 decision to dissolve the one fund and move everything over to the GICs. It was a great
Yeah.
move. So council will see the fruits of that next week.
Fantastic. Look forward to it. Okay. Have a motion that reads report TR 0525 regarding the 2024 investment report be received for information. Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Weiser, Councillor Chilcott, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you.
One thing to note, your worship, next Thursday is our special, and that will have our year-end surplus deficit report, our year-end reserve report, our sale and surplus report, as well as our financial outlook report. So anyone who likes to see our finance reports, either in the gallery at home, next Thursday we'll have the remaining year-end reports.
Looking forward to it. It'll be the Lauren Show.
Thank you, your worship. Good night, council.
Good night. Item C, report CAO 1125 by Thomas Thayer, CAO regarding the limiting distance agreement. The Rempel Friesen and Costello at 56226, 56230, and 56232 Heritage Line.
Thank
I
you,
gotta
Mr. Mayor.
admit, I've never heard of a limiting distance agreement before.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an interesting one. I've only had to deal with one of these previously when I was in a different role with the municipality of South Huron. But so this is one of those agreements under the building code that has applies when there are specific limitations that apply. In this case, we have an existing house. The landowners are looking to build on a parcel adjacent to it. And the building code has specific limitations to the total area of glazed openings, so windows, doors, that sort of thing, that can be on an exterior wall of a house. And based upon the ratio of glazed openings, it dictates the distance between the structures based upon a property line. Usually the dividing line is a property line. In this case, Rempel Friesen and Costello, that house currently exists. And when considering the proposed construction of the house proposed by Ronnie Rempel Friesen, along with the current distance from the property line, the house has a greater ratio of glazed openings than is permitted. So you have to consider a line between the two buildings other than the property line, which is considered a limiting distance. So the limiting distance agreement is permitted under section 910.15.4 of the building code. And it requires the distance to be considered as a line beyond a property line that is not the center of a street, lane, or public thoroughfare. So it is essentially an agreed upon invisible line on one of the properties to which the distances will be measured. And the reason why this is important is because the two landowners have to agree to the location of that line, and then the municipality has to be a party to the agreement because the municipality ultimately issues the building permit. So this is how we come across a limiting distance agreement under the building code. This has been something that the chief building official has been handling. I'm bringing it forward because ultimately it is a legal report. This has gone through legal review from both parties, and it is before council for consideration. Ultimately, we can't issue the building permit until we have a limiting distance agreement in place. So all three parties are included. It is before council for consideration with the recommendation to approve the bylaw later on in the agenda. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave it with you and council for questions.
Well, thank you for that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Any questions for members of council? Will I think of a question?
I just find it interesting something like this even exists.
Apparently you can't build a glass house.
Well,
Right?
I wonder, is it
100%.
simply because, are they encroaching on the property lines? Like
Is
they're
that
closer than the
stones throw
standard
distance
setbacks
away?
are? Is that what the reason is?
It's not exactly an encroachment. It's the ratio of glazed openings on the
So,
one side of the,
windows.
yes, are, would make it prohibitive to build a building next to it. It's like a privacy component. It's like a privacy ratio. But because the two landowners are essentially the same party, Ronnie Rempel Friesen owns
Yeah.
both parties, then parcels, then the agreement is fairly straightforward. But I've only ever seen one of these before.
Seems strange why you'd want to build a house where you had windows shaded by your neighbor's house. But anyway, that's okay. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I've never seen it before.
But then fence.
But yeah, a fence too. Put up all these windows and then a fence. Okay. Well, learn something new every day. Anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion that reads a report CAO 1125 regarding limiting distance agreement, Rempel Friesen and Costello. 56226, 56230, 56232 Heritage Line, Stratfordville, be received for information. And that council authorizes the chief administrative officer and mayor to execute a limiting distance agreement under the Ontario Building Code between the municipality of Bayham, Rami Rempel Friesen and Alana Grace Costello, and that the appropriate authorizing bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Weisler, Councillor Emerson. All in favor? And that's carried. Might be the only one we have in Bayham. Maybe.
First one of those I've seen in 9 years.
Item D, report CAO 1225 by Tom Stair, CEO, regarding acquisition, stop up, close, and convey Part 1, Plan 11R 11305, part of 4th Street, Stratfordville.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council has considered this one closed and provided direction. So this is the follow-up report. Another interesting one, because this is to facilitate a comprehensive land transaction between Serenity Farms Limited and the Stratfordville Evangelical Mennonite Church. I'll just refer to it as EMC going forward. The confounding factor on this one is that there's a road allowance that's owned by Serenity Farms that is a municipal road allowance on the plan of Stratfordville. And at some point in the past, Serenity Farms would have acquired the land and the road allowance, but the road allowance has not formally been stopped up and closed per land registry. So to facilitate the construction of a contiguous parcel of land that the EMC is looking to compile to expand their parking lot to the north, the municipality has to stop up and close the road allowance. Now, the municipality can't stop up and close the road allowance until the municipality owns the road allowance. So that's why this is sort of convoluted. The municipality has to acquire it for nominal consideration, has to go through the stop up, close, and convey process, and then has to formally convey the lands to the EMC church at nominal. What that means is that there's no cost for the municipality to do this. Legal costs will be covered by the EMC for the municipality's part in this. This is us being good community partners and assisting with the land transaction because of some interesting idiosyncrasies in land titles. So, Mr. Mayor, it's before you for consideration. The recommendation is a little bit longer, but comprehensively directs the staff, the municipality, to acquire the Part 1 for nominal consideration, execute those documents, and then immediately surplus and start the public comment period for disposition. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave it with you.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. This has been a while coming, and I think the EMC would be happy to have this executed through. Does anyone have any questions for this? We have a motion then that reads a report CAO 1225 regarding the acquisition, stop up, close, and convey of Part 1, Plan 11R-11305, 4th Street, Stratfordville, be received for information. And that the council of the corporation of the municipality of Bayham authorize the acquisition of Part 1 on Plan 11R-11305, being part of 4th Street, Stratfordville, for nominal consideration to facilitate a transaction between Serenity Farms Limited and the Stratfordville Evangelical Mennonite Church. And that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute any documents necessary to complete the acquisition. And that the council of the corporation and municipality of Bayham declares Part 1 on Plan 11R-11305 surplus to the needs of the municipality for purposes of conveyance to the Stratfordville Evangelical Mennonite Church. And that staff commence the appropriate public comment period to stop up, close, and convey Part 1 on Plan 11R-11305 to the Stratfordville Evangelical Mennonite Church, with all of the municipality's legal and survey costs being paid by the Stratfordville Evangelical Mennonite Church. Mover and seconder, Councillor Chilcott. Councillor Froese. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Moving on with section 14, we have 3 bylaws. Bylaw number 2025-012, bylaw to authorize and declare lands in the municipality of Bayham as part of the open public highway system. Bylaw number 2025-013 being a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking of motor vehicles in the municipality of Bayham. Bylaw number 2025-014 being a bylaw to authorize execution of a limiting distance agreement between the corporation and the municipality of Bayham, Rami Rempel Friesen and Alana Grace Costello. Any questions on the bylaws? Counselor Chilcott.
Just, B, does it have to be removed since it wasn't unanimous?
Nope. It did pass.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, the motion reads then that bylaw, Counselor Froze,
Thank you through Mr. Mayor. So if I want to support one but not the other,
you want a mechanism on how to do it?
That's kind of what I was
Yes,
asking.
move to separate or move to divide.
I move to separate or divide.
Okay,
Divorce, whatever
can
you
we
like.
get? Yep. We need a seconder for that motion. Counselor Chilcott. So I believe the motion is to separate item B, bylaw number 2025-013. All in favor of that motion to divide? That's carried. All right. So dealing with A and B, that would be that bylaw number 2025-012 and bylaw 2025-014 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder would be Counselor Froze. Counselor Emerson will second. All in favor? That is carried. And on a separate issue, that bylaw number 2025-013 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. I need a mover and seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Weisler and Counselor Chilcott, all in favor? And any opposed? It will still carry. Okay, thank you for that. We do have other business. We don't have any unfinished business. Before we say goodnight to the gallery, let's move into an in-camera session and take a short break, okay? So the motion reads that the camera do now rise to enter into an in-camera session at 8:12 p.m. to discuss a confidential item regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, Lakeshore Line, and confidential item regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual. This is CAO performance evaluation. Mover and second. Counselor Chilcott, Deputy Mayor Weisler, all in favor? Carried. We are in closed.